Good afternoon. I'm David Talbot, Managing Director and Head of Research here at Red Cloud Securities. We would like to extend our thanks to Oberon for sponsoring this session. Our next presenter is Stephen Keith, President and CEO of Labrador Uranium. Labrador Uranium has been compiling extensive uranium property pipeline in the highly prospective Central Mineral Belt of Labrador and should be listing tomorrow morning. So Stephen, you're going to have 15 minutes and then we'll have a 5-minute Q&A at the end of the session. So viewers, please enter your questions. We'll get to as many as we can.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set my timer to 15 minutes to make sure I don't blow this up and make you angry, because I've learned not to make you angry.
That's okay. I'll come back the 13-minute mark. That's your 2-minute warning.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time today. I know these guys are keeping everyone on a tight schedule, but I appreciate the time to allow me to introduce you all to Labrador Uranium. So as David said, my name is Stephen Keith. I'm the CEO. I'm just going to launch right into it. So Labrador Uranium, we're a brand new district scale, target rich exploration company based in Labrador. We spent the last year consolidating an entire mineral belt in Labrador with a clear focus on uranium exploration, and put together a pretty good team and plan. And I'm going to walk you all through it. So of course, this is everyone's favorite page. We can sit here for a while. You know, I'll point you to the Labrador Uranium website to get those details. So look, I think I always like to start obviously at the beginning, and we're a new company. We start trading on the CSE tomorrow under the symbol LUR. So your timing is very good to hear this. The idea came about, I don't know, 6-7 months ago, sort of September, October last year. Consolidated Uranium was growing fast. They were looking at newer and newer assets and getting assets that were more advanced. So the question was, what do you do with this exceptional project in Labrador that they had, the Morin Lake project, but knowing that this kind of earlier stage exploration wasn't going to fit. So the idea was, well, let's do what we're doing now, and that's Labrador Uranium. So we created this in October. We then did the deal whereby Consolidated Uranium spun out their Morin Lake asset, which has a historical uranium resource on it. We then completed a deal with Altius, whereby Altius gave us, at that time, 125,000 hectares of the Central Mineral Belt in Labrador. So this is a belt that's been explored for 50 years. These assets have been in the hands of dozens of companies, but never once has it all been in one place. And then the other group that came to the party was Mega Uranium. So Richard Patricio and Mega Uranium came, and they brought in the Mustang Lake joint venture. That part of the transaction has not closed. It will. It's all signed up and done, but we will be getting that asset. It's not technically ours now. So we now have this consolidated basin. It's about 139,000 hectares in the Central Mineral Belt. And then we went and put together a team. So we put together an experienced board and technical team in order to drive this company forward. We then financed the company in October of last year with the help of Red Cloud. We raised about $8 million. In 2021, we took about $10 million off the table to allow us to move the company forward. And that brings us to today. The spin out and the plan of arrangement have been approved. And tomorrow we start listing, as I said, under the symbol LUR on the CSE. So for those of you that likes to start at the beginning, our capital structure, we're sitting on about 47.7 million shares outstanding. When we close the mega deal, that will go to 50.7. There's 3 million shares that will be added to that cap table. We have about $7.5 million in cash on hand. Of our shareholders, insiders, directors, and officers own about 6.5% of the company. And the largest shareholder is going to be Altius Minerals with just under 17% of the company. The 33% of shares that you see there held by Consolidated Uranium have been dividended out to their shareholders. So those individual shareholders now own LUR shares and can start trading them tomorrow. We do have an exceptional shareholder base. In our first main financing, it was taken down by mostly long uranium funds. It's a very large group of institutional holders that are here. And we're very excited to get trading and to continue to tell our story. For us, the three pillars and the key value drivers of our company are fairly straightforward. One, we are a group of established company builders. I think when you're building a junior company, or frankly, any company, You need to know what you're doing and you need to set it up for success. So I always looked back in the day when I was a banker and before that as an engineer, the first place I looked at was the board of directors. Who's going to take care of both my money and the strategy, and who's going to keep people like me, the CEO, in line? That's a solid board. And that we have. So Phil Williams, who's the CEO of Consolidated Uranium, whose brainchild is this company, is our executive chairman. Richard Patricio, the CEO of Mega Uranium, is a director on the board, and rounding out the board is Justin Reed, who's also known to many of you. He's the CEO of Troy the School, who's doing a spectacular job there. Once you build that board and come up with a clear vision, the next step was geology. We are an exploration company, so we have built what we believe to be an exceptional geological brain trust. We've got a great group of people that I'm going to walk you through and why, but we can work on the ground in Labrador. We have that depth of experience in uranium and in Labrador. But just as, if not more importantly, we also have an incredible skill set that we brought to the team, or that the team has brought to us, in being able to manage and process big data through machine learning and AI, and guys that have won awards for it. And that is something that, with such a vast amount of land and so much historical data, is going to prove important. Important to that too is we believe that we control the next great Canadian uranium region. We have over 139,000 hectares of land. It's a bona fide uranium camp. There's uranium throughout this entire belt. So on the far east end is Paladin's 120 million pound Michelin deposit. So it's 120 million pounds of uranium. On the west end is the project that we're starting with, which is the Morin Lake project. It has a 20 million pound historical uranium equivalent resource right now. And that's something we can grow from. So we start with a historical resource, we can grow with this massive land package with this incredible amount of data. One thing that I'll say again and again and again is we have 50 years of data, and the first pass of looking at that data in the region came up with 146 geological targets. Our job is to narrow that down so that we can actually find something. So we're very excited about that. And then frankly, it's also nice to have timing on your hand. We think that, this is a well-timed opportunity. Uranium is giving us great tailwinds. There's a slide in here, but I might as well say it now. If we look at what's happening in the world and the need for clean energy, carbon-free energy, uranium really is our only choice. You're not building giant hydro plants anymore. I've done a lot of renewable energy, run-of-river hydro, solar, wind. They can't fire industry because they're looking at 30-35% of the time is when they're generating power. What are you going to do the rest of the time? Batteries aren't that big. You need things that store energy at the gigawatt scale if that's what you're going to use. So uranium is your solution. It's already the largest clean energy provider in the United States. The European Union has deemed it a green energy source now, and we expect this to just continue to grow from its fundamentals. So now our job is to build this company and to make discoveries. I'll let people refer to our presentation in detail on our website and in other places so they can learn about the team, but I'll just point at one guy on this team. I could point at each one of them for great reasons, but Paul Pearson is our chief geologist, specialist structural and economic geologist, 35 years of experience. But most importantly is he, and actually Drew Heisman has done the same thing. Drew's up for an award at PDAC. Paul won the Galler Prize a few years ago based on what? Giant areas of the world. So it was a challenge that was set up for people to find ways to find exploration targets in places like Western Australia. We have huge tracts of land. It's needle in the haystack stuff. So how do you look at data and information that's available to come up with targets? And he won that with his team. They came up with a great process. And he and Drew, who are experts in this field, are going to help us build our own system so that we can look at this data. So Newfoundland and Labrador, again, it's the next great basin. Why? Mining friendly jurisdiction. It's considered the 8th best place to put your mining investments in the world. And there's giant mines here already. Most of you are going to know Voisey's Bay at the very least, as well as these giant iron ore mines in the western side of the province. I'm a big fan of uranium. I think, again, I'm a clean energy guy. I think we are just at the beginning of something long and spectacular. So I think that's going to help us. But in the end, we have to make discoveries. How are we going to do that? So we control the Central Mineral Belt. This is a 260 kilometer long, 75 kilometer wide belt. There's a confluence of 4 geological provinces. So 4 different times these mountain building phases have come in. That has done all sorts of stuff to the rock, not just brought fluids that were rich in things like, say, copper and gold into this basin, which we have throughout this belt. It's also done things like faulted and folded the region, and that's helped with the uranium because uranium needs to be trapped somewhere. So geologically, it's a very exciting area. And historically, we've got all this data. So this is the land package today that we have. So our package itself is about 125 kilometers long, 139,000 hectares. And again, a lot of work to do. But all these black dots that you see, they're all known uranium occurrences. The Michelin deposit, as I said, 120 million pounds, Morin Lake, 20 million pounds. That's what we're looking at. And now we have to grow it. Each one of these white rectangles on this map, those are all known uranium occurrences. Again, all in and around this belt. And now we have to synthesize. We have this historical data at the district scale. So the geology, radiometrics, gravity, magnetics, we've got to put that together. We already know where some of this stuff is. Each one of those green dots on that map is a known uranium occurrence. Every one of the red dots is a known copper occurrence. So first pass, all the historical data. What does that show? We came up with 146 targets, 70% of which were high to moderate priority. Now we've got to narrow that down to create a better focus. We're going to do that with a modern data-focused approach. And as I said, we have the team that can do it. So it's supervised machine learning. It's not just about the AI. More importantly, it's about the geology and the information that goes into it. You need to know what to feed the system, and you need to be able to teach it. Tell it, okay, well, this is happening because of this, and it occurs because of, herefore, and, all that geology that I am not the expert in, but my team is. And we have that ability and to come up with hard, real exploration targets. In the meantime, though, we do start with the Morin Lake project, which is a known historical resource. So our goal is also to grow this into something spectacular. And we know we can start that. So this exploration season, we'll be looking around Morin Lake. Can it grow? That's the fundamental question. It needs to grow. Like this basin, though, it's multi-commodity. This target is actually a vanadium and uranium target, which is great because vanadium is also an in-demand metal. So I'm not sad about that. And as I like to say, we're not going to hide from anything here. We know, we believe, you can never say, we believe we're going to make some discoveries here. I don't think it's just going to be in uranium. We know there's copper here. We know that in the last path, the guys that put this asset package together, they were hunting for IOCGs and came up with some really clear targets. So we've got to get in there and prove out what we have. And then as Mustang Lake gets layered in, that's just east of Michelin. Again, another drill-ready target. It has been drilled. It has found uranium over 9 meters in the hole. So again, how do we broaden that? What do we turn that into? So the central mineral belt is this unbelievable opportunity, massive land package, lots of data, and we have the skill set to process that and come up with big targets. And, hunting for elephants, we're looking for big deposits, just like what Aurora Energy did with Michelin. So when Aurora started, not dissimilar to what we have. They started about 20 to 30 million pound deposit. They had shareholders just like Altius that came in, and they went and they built this thing. And in the end, it sold for over $200 million at a time where there was a moratorium on uranium. So if this is what you can do in that context, we believe we can do this hopefully a few times in the context of today's market in the CMB. On top of that, we've got the Nataquanon asset, which we don't talk a ton about, but what's exciting there is, again, it's a new discovery in this region. So down here in the southern part where you see the Michelin deposit star, there's the central mineral belt. That's amenable to lower grade, high tonnage deposits. We know there's all sorts of gold and copper and other exciting things in that district, and we hope to find that and plan on growing the resource. But up here at Nataquanon, we've got a 3,000 hectare land package with really high grade stuff on the surface, 22 occurrences of uranium at surface, reaching up to 3.5% in grab samples. Unlike the stuff down south, which is structural and from a sedimentary source, this looks like more basement style geology that you would see more in Saskatchewan. I'm going to be clear, I'm an engineer, not a geologist, so I invite you to ask my geos about this, but in the end, we know it's a very hot system. It's amenable to high grade, but now we've got to get in there. It's never been drilled. We haven't had massive programs on that. So as we work this massive basin, we generate these targets and hope to grow the Morin Lake resource. At the same time, we've got this other really exciting thing that can drive value within the company. So over the last year, we spent a little over $1 million on desktop studies and target verification, getting on the ground, trying to start off this artificial intelligence plan. As we move forward, we're getting more focused. Let's generate real targets. Let's get into the field. We're permitting the field camps. We'll be building field camps in this summer. We'll have teams on the field trenching, sampling, getting some drilling done in order to do what we have to do, which is we have to make discoveries. And that's what we're positioned to do. So look, we've got a district scale opportunity. It's a known multi-commodity belt. So that's not at issue here. We have a historical resource base with a strong discovery potential and growth potential around it. We've got an amazing shareholder base, very, very supportive. And really with the board and the geological team that we have, we think we have all the right ingredients to guide the company in the right direction, have the right strategy, and continue to grow this opportunity. And so I think that's it for me, everyone. Like, I appreciate your time. I welcome any questions, but look, this is the beginning of something very exciting. Tomorrow's day one on the market, and we plan on hitting the road hard. And again, with one goal, let's figure out how we're going to deliver value for shareholders. So I'm going to jump off the sharing here, and David, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Stephen. Great presentation. So yeah, let's kick off the Q&A here. Now you have put together such a massive exploration property package. How do you decide what you want to focus on? Are you looking at some resource delineation? Are you looking to expand zones? Are you targeting new discoveries? Because you certainly have a lot of targets.
So I will say yes. It's a bit of all three. So look, in the view that our job is also, look, we've got a good amount of cash. We have $7.5 million left. We can do a lot with that, but we also don't want to do anything dumb. We do need to be intelligent, and there's a process to go through. So first, resource delineation. We do have a historical resource at Morin Lake. My goal there has nothing, our goal there has nothing to do with turning a historical into an M&I. Like, as long as it stays at this size, it's not a mine. So our goal is, let's look around there. We believe that it extends along strike. There are a lot of targets that scream at us in and around Morin Lake, and there's historical discoveries as well in that area. So we have to answer the question, does this grow as a much larger deposit? Is this a bunch of smaller deposits? Because a bunch of small at-surface deposits is just as good for me. So in the question of, are we delineating something, we would like to start that process there at Morin Lake. But phase one, does it extend and where? Okay. New targets. Yeah, that's our artificial intelligence work is focused almost entirely at generating new real targets. And again, we've got to get that down from 146 to 90 to say 10 or 15, right? We've got people we can throw at this in the field and start ground truthing. Some will go to zero, but yeah, we want to generate those, because if we can find a massive IOCG deposit, some, extensions to Morin Lake or something, you go for that all day long. And then the third prong is what we have up at Natakwanan. Natakwanan is very exciting, but it's both ready to drill and not, just because, it's at surface, it's done, but we'll do some work around there for sure. We will work all three. At present, the main focus this year will be on Morin Lake, just because it will take the most money. But the brain power will probably be focused more on the CMB itself.
Okay, on the money aspect, what's your budget for this year, and does your $7.5 million cash cover everything you plan to do?
So it does, and in an exploration company, a budget is asking a budget is similar to asking how long is a piece of string. The answer is, for now, with what we have in hand and what we do, we'd probably do about a $3.5 million exploration program, with about 2.5 of that probably focused in and around Morin Lake and potential growth of that. The AI work, because it's very desktop, it's not cheap, but it's nowhere near the expense of what you do there. And obviously we'd get field teams out in the field. So I would expect $3.5 million is our focus right now to conserve our cash and to make sure we have our powder dry for, say, a winter drill campaign or getting those targets ready. If the tailwinds of uranium help and the market works, is there an opportunity to do other things? Possibly, right? Like in Canada, you're probably better to spend your exploration money using flow through than hard dollars. But you don't want to be raising money every week and diluting the hell out of shareholders. So it's for right now, we've got a pretty clear plan. It can change very quickly, but it changes quickly for the better, not for the worse.
Okay, so changing quickly, your focus is uranium, but if opportunities present themselves, you may pivot to copper or IOCG or vanadium?
Yes, I'm not sure the word pivot is the word I would use. Like, look, uranium is our DNA, and I think we will keep that. But if we find something else, we will advance it, right? If you find a monster of anything, right, $1 billion deposit is $1 billion deposit, and that's how you make your shareholders money. Then the question is, though, how long do you keep or incubate something like that before you do something with it? You know, the odds are, and you know, crystal ball and all that, you know, if you find some spectacular copper deposit, do you spin it out? Quite possibly, right? It's markets, it's your shareholders. There's a lot involved in that, but it's really easy to lose focus. So if the fundamental thesis is uranium, you find a big copper, it still plays within the energy space. It's not necessarily that they eat each other. Vanadium plays in the energy space. But we'd want to do it in a way where our shareholders made money. And somewhat, maybe it's what we did here with Consolidated, and you spin it out and you dividend it out to shareholders and you repeat, but that you need the underlying value before you do that.
Perfect. Okay. With that said, we're up on time, Stephen. So thank you for joining us, and thank you everybody else. Up next, we have Fission 3.0 on stream 1, and we have Star Diamonds on stream 2. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Thanks, David.